The tragedy of the Caneiro family is a haunting example of how absolute trust can be weaponized into an absolute betrayal. To understand the gravity of this case, you have to look at the relationship between Keith and Paul Caneiro. They weren't just brothers. They were business partners who had spent decades building a tech and pest control empire in New Jersey. They lived in the same wealthy circles, shared the same social status, and to any outsider, they were the definition of a successful American family unit. The illusion shattered on November 20, 2018, in the quiet, upscale community of Colts Neck. At roughly 12:30 p.m., smoke began pouring from Keith's $1.5 million estate. When emergency responders arrived, they found a scene that looked like a coordinated military strike. Keith Caneiro was lying on the front lawn, executed with multiple gunshots. Inside the burning home, his wife Jennifer and their two children, 8-year-old Sophia and 11-year-old Jesse, had been killed before the fire was even set. The brutality was shocking. While Keith had been shot, the mother and children were stabbed, signaling a much more personal and intimate level of violence. While firefighters were still battling the blaze at Keith's home, a bizarre development occurred 12 miles away in Ocean Township. Another fire had broken out at the home of the older brother, Paul Caneiro. Initially, investigators feared a targeted hit was being carried out against the entire family. Paul stood on his lawn with his wife and daughters, appearing to be a fellow victim of a mysterious stalker. However, as the smoke cleared, the forensic evidence began to tell a very different story. The motive was hidden in the brothers' shared office. Keith had recently discovered that Paul had been embezzling massive sums of money, estimated at over $1.5 million, to fund a lifestyle he couldn't afford. The night before the murders, Keith sent an email to Paul confronting him about the missing funds and informing him that he was cutting off the salary of Paul's wife until the money was accounted for. For Paul, this wasn't just a financial crisis. It was the total social and professional ruin of his life at the hands of his younger brother. The prosecution's case, which culminated in the February 13, 2026, guilty verdict, relied on a mountain of digital and physical evidence. Surveillance footage caught Paul's unique Porsche Macan moving between the crime scenes in the early morning hours. Even more damning was the discovery of a latex glove and a plastic container in Paul's own basement. Despite the fire at his house, these items survived, and DNA testing confirmed they were stained with the blood of his niece Sophia. This proved that Paul hadn't just set a fire for insurance money. He had physically been inside his brother's home during the massacre. The trial revealed that Paul had set the fire at his own home as a desperate alibi, hoping to convince police that they were coming for both brothers. He was willing to risk the lives of his own wife and children in that fire just to sell the lie. After 7 years of legal battles and pandemic-related delays, the jury finally saw through the deception. Paul Caneiro was convicted of all 15 counts, including the 4 murders. He now sits in a cell awaiting his formal sentencing in May 2026, marking the end of one of the most cold-blooded cases of sibling betrayal in modern history.